All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our recap pod. Week 7 almost done. Looking ahead to week 8. Still Monday Night Football to come. Lots of news this morning. However, am I wrong, Taylor? Almost all the news this morning has been confirmation of what we said yesterday afternoon before Sunday Night Football, yesterday evening before Sunday Night Football.
No surprises, right? Yeah.
There haven't been any surprises there, but we can go through it. Eric McCoy, we didn't really see the good video, but the suspicion was with the biceps tendon, it would be surgery, and he's out for the season. And I think that's been declared.
That's what I want to talk about more, Doc, just a tiny bit. Do you remember what we saw with the Ron Hainsey injury with the Jaguars, how they allowed so much pressure up the middle the last 2 games? McCoy's one of the top 5 centers in the entire league, Doc. This is the 2nd straight year he's had a season-ending injury. He had a groin injury last year that was season-ending. Do you see some type of situation that teams attack this? If you have a Pro Bowl kind of dude that's like gluing the entire offensive line together, it's a deficiency if he's out, correct?
Well, yeah, the other thing is, and I don't know the inner workings of Kellen Moore's coaching staff, etc. However, it wouldn't surprise me if Eric McCoy was making the line calls and not Spencer Rattler.
Okay.
So the question is, who's making the line calls now for protections and schemes and what have you? I don't know. And maybe a New England beat reporter can chime in and tell us what the reality is, but it's potentially a bigger deal. Less of a deal if it's Peyton Manning's center, blanking on his name now. I was looking at his face. He coached at Indy.
Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday, right? Yeah. Jeff Saturday, like when Peyton Manning's a quarterback, he's making the line protection calls. Not say anything bad about Jeff Saturday. I'm just saying, less of a factor, right, than Spencer Rattler, and it's Eric McCoy. McCoy's making the line calls typically.
Do you remember when Frank Ragnow got hurt, specifically in his throat, and he's the one that makes the line calls for the Detroit, and they had to do some, workings and stuff there. He was able to not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. The other one that I think we can recap here that we forgot to talk about was Brian Thomas Jr. We forgot to talk about Brian Thomas Jr. and his shoulder based on it was the London early game, right? And B, because we didn't really see a lot. Right. We scrubbed all of the video of Brian Thomas Jr. London game. We saw when he tried to engage in block and then he sort of pulled up on his shoulder. We even went back and looked at all his catches and other blocking video. I don't know that we've gotten to the all 22 yet. The staff has to get it all. But the reason why we didn't talk about Brian Thomas Jr. is we're not trying to BS anybody. Didn't have a lot to go off of on video where we saw it. So I don't know if Liam Combs has spoken today or not. I mean, they may be on a plane right now still from London.
Yes.
It is typically the only time other than the Super Bowl where a lot of teams don't leave until the next morning. Some teams have tried to change that some, but in general, in my playing days, I never played, but in my team physician days, the only time we didn't leave directly after a football game was London. Because
you had to buy, right?
Chargers never played in the Super Bowl. You stay the next night from the Super Bowl. So not a lot of information on Brian Thomas Jr. because if we don't see anything, look, I know the Jacksonville Jaguars head team position very well. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great doc, but I am not texting or calling him to say what happened to Brian Thomas Jr. He would never tell me because of HIPAA, right? I mean, privacy. He would never break that. That's like a reporter breaking his sources. He would never do that. So look, if it's not publicly available on video and we can't see and figure it out, and that's kind of why we didn't say anything on Brian Thomas Jr., although we should have mentioned it in our pod, we just forgot, right? Yeah. But don't have a lot on him right now.
And from a fantasy perspective, Doc, he has a bye this week. So he does have 1 week of rest before the next week 9 game. So we'll look at him more, obviously, as practice sport next week. Speaking of the bye, Doc, we did mention this. Like you said, a lot of stuff was kind of confirming what happened in the last pod. Pete Carroll did speak today. Good news, as always.
Before you get to Pete Carroll, let me finish on one thing because it's Rams Jaguars.
Oh, okay. Go
on. Rams did pretty well, didn't they? Right? And I heard in the game, let me give you two things about the Rams. The Rams did something a little bit unique. They played in Baltimore and they stayed in Baltimore. But they only flew to London right basically before the game.
Yeah.
Baltimore to London is probably not that different from LA to New York or New England. It's not that different in terms of flight. They just held camp in Baltimore instead of flying across the country. They flew over there. And I saw the broadcasters talking about, well, why don't they just come to London if you're going to stay in Baltimore? And we've made with the Chargers the second London trip ever. We played the Saints. And we stayed there the whole week. Teams have moved away from that for several reasons. I think there was some smartness to being in Baltimore versus in London. I get it. It's an English-speaking country and whatever. It's the same. But let me tell you, it's not the same. The food is even different. Like the omelets are different for breakfast. The bacon is different for breakfast. I'm just telling you, it's subtle differences, but it's different. In a U.S. hotel, it's almost all the same, whether you're in a Baltimore hotel or an LA, but in a London hotel, it's different. There's different subtleties. The orange juice tastes different. It's a different, it's just different. Little tiny things. And players are creatures of habit. Like I said, we had one Charger player who hated his week in London so much, he swore that he'd never go back there. And if we ever played there again, he would just not go. Now, he was saying it I think he was serious. And never came to shove where he had to make the choice. And I won't say his name, but he hated it that much. So it made some sense for Baltimore to stay in familiar U.S. surroundings.
The Rams.
The Rams to stay in familiar U.S. surroundings. But the other outcropping of that, I saw a report this morning about, as part of the deal to practice at Camden Yards, they had to agree to resod the turf in the outfield. And this is my whole thing is this. I'm all aboard on grasses in general safer than turf, but quality turf is better than uneven or bad grass.
Right.
And in some of we've heard the Pittsburgh controversy. Well, maybe University of Pittsburgh shouldn't play there, right? We've heard the Miami controversy, with Tyreek Hill's injury, the way that grass looked that day with the Hurricanes playing there as well. Okay.
MetLife as well, right? With all their stuff.
MetLife. Yeah. But MetLife has to be turf because you couldn't play every week on that grass in New York weather in the winter. It would be a hot mess. And just resod it. It takes multiple weeks, if not months, for sod to really grow in thick and have strong roots. Exactly. They do it for the World Cup and for soccer teams that come in. Yes, they do. 150-pound players spread out across the entire pitch and field. This is 22 players centered or at least the linemen, at least 2/3 of the players centered on the middle of the field between the right and left hash marks up and down the middle of the field. There's the wear and tear patterns for 350-pound guys. The wear and tear patterns are way different. You couldn't, and by the way, World Cup grass is different. It's about a smooth roll. It's not about toughness.
Right.
If you put an NFL team on a soccer pitch, they would tear that up in one game. The grass is different. I'm no grass expert, but my point is I'm supportive of grass, but it has to be right weather, forethought, designed that way. MetLife, it's not happening based on weather and based on they didn't design it that way. And even if they did, I'm not sure how they move the pallets of grass in and out, or a tray, or whatever they're doing. That at Allegiant, look, Allegiant
They do
rolls grass in and out.
Yes,
and UNLV plays there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how they manage that? UNLV plays there on turf. They don't get the Raiders grass tray rolled in there for them.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, enough on that side note there. Let's go to Pete Carroll. What does our guy Pete have to say?
Pete Carroll, like we always talk about, very good news. This is something we had a question from our last pod. Someone from the chat mentioned Bowers and Meyers availability after the bye, November 2nd. Carroll saying it's a go. And do you agree with that, with Bowers and Meyers injuries?
Typical bone bruise is 6 weeks. So yes, that fits. Okay. The timeline. Myers, yes, too, if he's not traded. That's a whole nother story. And byline there. And that's why this was one of our big circle plays and other things. Even though it was a huge number, there were no targets to be had there for Geno Smith and the Raiders.
And one of the big props we had too, Doc, it was the under on Genty, and that's just the process of knowing that there's no targets. They're not going to be able to. They're going to be able to focus on the run, and there's just no offense at all for the Raiders, right?
Hey, Taylor, I'm going to put you on the spot here. From our earlier business meeting, etc.
Yes.
I said something that you didn't necessarily agree with, and I'm going to put you on the spot now. And feel free to not agree with me. Okay. I made a statement that historically we have been 56.5% on sides across 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
And that is a tough number and whatever. We're doing better than that on Circa. We won't go there. I'm not going to, it's too early for us to be bragging on Circa and whatever.
Off the count kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's too early. Even we're doing really well. I'm proud of everybody. But my point is this, with what we're doing with the player edge, there's nobody out there that takes into account not just the health of the running back, the health of the O-line, the health of the D-line they play against that week, and or linebackers, etc. Or for wide receivers, it's the coverage plus the pass rush against the O-line, against the health of your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about the fantasy player. With the player edge, as we continue to improve on the formula, I think we should be able to do better on player edge and fantasy and prop numbers ultimately as we refine that formula than even the 56.5% we do on sides. And nobody's doing it out there that way. This is why I say, because as we factor in the prop, we can do more with it, targeting one player versus the game script and the funny bounces of the ball in a game. Have I convinced you or not yet? It's okay.
It's close. One thing I didn't realize we were doing so good this year before we started the conversation. So I thought it was more we needed to work on it. But what I think is, I think the numbers are so strong, and I think if a player is injured, the number gets devalued so much you can't really go under him as much because there's so much baked in. But I will say there's a lot of stuff times that you're completely right on the overs and stuff, that it's clear this, but then like we're so strong on the unders at what I think it was like 70+%. So I just think
the bottom line is I agree with you that it's always against what the prop number is. If someone's devalued, and I get it, if a player is hurt, his number isn't even on the board and you can't necessarily get it. But I think what we're doing with, like, we're saying it's a healthy player, but they always put up a number for a healthy fantasy player, but they don't account for the health of the O-line against the D-line, against the run-stopping linebackers, or the coverage, right? I mean, etc. That's where I think ultimately the player.
I wanted to mention one that's like that. I remember it was Jordan Mason. Everybody was very high on him. Aaron Jones is out, right? So he had a lot of usage, but it was a healthy Eagles a couple weeks ago. Healthy Eagles D-line, trashed O-line from Minnesota, and then you had a very high line, 83.5 yards. I thought that was pretty significant. And also on top of that, Doc, we tried it. That's the one thing I feel like I'm not strong on, is like the game script and maybe just like understanding the flow or the scheme of a team. But that one was like, they're not going to be able to run the ball. And that, look at, he was under his rushing yards. That one is, like you said, it's a healthy Jordan Mason, but there's some other existential factors that make it an underplay, right? And that's
no question. And but we just have to keep doing what we're doing. Our expertise is in injury analysis, so grading people. Look, I will be the first one to admit that, okay, another guaranteed pick winner. Last week it was Kansas City. Not because we loved Kansas City, but Detroit had secondary issues and D-line issues.
Correct, yeah.
This week we had a huge health advantage for the Colts against my former team, the Chargers. I love Jim Harbaugh. I think he does a great job. I was nervous as heck about our numbers, but when we do our numbers, what do? We blind the team. Yep. We do the health numbers, and then we have the formulation and the algorithm, and it was spitting out Indy every single way.
Yes, correct.
Very strong. And we made that the guaranteed pick, even though I was nervous about it, and it was actually pretty smooth and easy, and it went to script. And so the key, I guess, is blind yourself to the emotion, right? And we're just looking at that's what our strength is, and that's what we have to rely on. And like, as much as we're saying we do really well, we only hit 56.5% across 6 years. Now, I get it. That's winning, and that's better than most. But I'm just saying, it's not like you can ever hit 70-30. It's never going to be that. The ball's not round.
Yeah. Well, it's like baseball, right? You're good when you hit 3 out of 10, right? Like, so it's like, it's just,
well, if we only hit 3 out of 10, we wouldn't be so good. So
we wouldn't be selling any company or
3 out of 10, they would be, people would be George Costanza's opposite day us,
Yeah, they'd be fading on, exactly.
All right, let's keep going. What else
I have two other ones, Doc. We haven't had a couple of these
and far away questions. You can see them, I can't, but you'll read them.
Yeah, we've been covering a lot. I haven't had none big ones yet. ACL tears I want to cover real quick, Doc. Kendre Miller, New Orleans Saints, and then the defensive end tackle for the Chiefs, rookie Lott, who's been playing Omarr Norman-Lott, playing really well this year. Both of them suffered this week. Tell me what you saw in the Miller play, if we had that.
I don't really remember seeing it, to tell you the truth. Okay, I mean, maybe we put it into what's happened. I just missed it. It was one of those busy days. But let me just point this out, since we started down another tangent. Kendre Miller tore his knee up on what surface?
We're at turf.
Soldier Field is turf?
Soldier Field.
Grass. At least when I played there, it was grass, unless they've changed it.
You might be right, yeah.
Okay. Kansas City?
Natural grass. You're correct. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I mean, it does look like a spaceship landed in Soldier Field, but, I mean, whatever. It's grass.
You got the Bermuda grass. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And what's KC's surface? I know the answer to this question. Well, unless they changed it, which would surprise me.
This grass is
I am saying grass is better, but I just hate it every time we have someone tear their ACL on turf. Oh, it's the turf. It's not just the turf.
Yeah, they're both grass. Yep. Yeah, Bermuda grass.
It happens on both surfaces.
Yeah.
I get a lot of ats and people. I like grass better. If I had a choice, I'd want to play on grass. I would advise the NFL to try and always do grass. However, well-maintained turf is safer than bad grass, but well-maintained grass is better than turf. But ACLs do happen on grass. There's 2 examples right there, unfortunately.
So, Doc, real quick, we do really well on hiding behind health, and we find multiple situations. There's 2 we're going to talk about. Tell me about JJ McCarthy on Thursday, and tell me if there's one brewing in the Jet situation with Aaron Glenn. He said, I don't want to make a rash decision at quarterback. He's saying it's always a tough decision, but as a head coach, you have to look at different stuff. Tell me your thoughts on both those situations.
I don't think Justin Fields, I don't think that's hiding behind health at this point. We're 0-7, and does Tyrod Taylor give us a bigger chance to win, right? Okay. He's trying to make a quarterback decision. Now, before we start talking about JJ McCarthy, let's talk about why am I blanking on anyone's name today? Bryce Young.
Okay. Yes. High ankle.
Bryce Young is said to have a high ankle sprain. JJ McCarthy had a high ankle sprain. Bryce Young yesterday, we made a point of calling it an eversion / high ankle sprain. Why? If you look at the video we posted yesterday, his Achilles gets stepped on, and the base of his foot is not planted in the grass.
Right.
It's his foot is everted. Less stress on the syndesmotic ligament. This is not your classic, oh my gosh, 4 to 6 week or more high ankle sprain. You know who's got a real high ankle sprain? Jake Matthews, left tackle for Atlanta, who played last night but didn't play particularly well. And did you see that huge brace he had on? That's a brace for a high ankle sprain, and it doesn't even always work. If he were a position player, there's no way he would have played. If he weren't as tough as he was, there's no way he would have played. If he didn't have great pride in his consecutive start streak and Atlanta needed him, he would not have played. He has a real life, the bad kind we fear high ankle sprain. Bryce Young does not. Bryce Young will miss next week, but he's not headed for IR. At least that is our belief. It is a mild high ankle sprain. It is the kind of high ankle sprain that, quite honestly, a couple of years ago, Pat Mahomes won a Super Bowl with. It is the type of high ankle sprain that JJ McCarthy has. That's why we said hiding behind health, and we'll get to JJ in a second. Bryce Young, media saying high ankle sprain. I called it eversion high ankle sprain, indicate that it's mild. So what we said is confirmed. He's missing next week, but we don't think he's headed for IR. So it's Andy Dalton against the Buffalo Bills. And I think the betting lines already have that in there.
They do.
Any questions on that before we go to JJ McCarthy?
I want to mention just Jake Matthews. Yeah, it was 184 last night was his consecutive start streak. So that's the largest active streak in the league right now. So that's what he said. He wanted to keep it strong, but also he's tough as nails. So that's why he played through. No, Doc, what you're going to say? Yeah, go next and what you were going to say.
JJ McCarthy. Coming last week, we said, I get the Vikings are coming off their bye, but Kevin O'Connell has a decision to make. We kept with hiding behind health. And I can't stress enough that I'm not saying JJ McCarthy is faking an injury. It is normal to not be 100%. But if he were playing well and not essentially a rookie, he would have been back in there and played through already. They're using this to say, you're not being benched. We're playing Carson Wentz right now. And that's smart for the team because a healthy Carson Wentz is better for the team than a not 100% JJ McCarthy. I am not calling McCarthy soft. And guess what? With the Thursday game, it's going to be Carson Wentz again. If Carson Wentz has a bad Thursday against the Chargers with the 10-day gap before the next one, that is JJ McCarthy's window to return.
Right.
My guy, Schefter. I love Schefter. I see he got grief on Twitter. Who cares? Twitter's like Yelp. Don't worry about it. All good. I'm not worried about it at all. Schefter, in today's morning hit on Pat McAfee, confirmed all the things that we've been saying. Jayden Daniels, hamstring, the whole thing. Okay. Love Shefty. He got grief because they said this was always a 6-week high ankle sprain for JJ McCarthy. Okay. And people I saw on Twitter put up, he said 2 to 4. Now it's 6. Okay. It all depends. I got in trouble with my GM once, John Butler. Okay. God rest his soul. He was hard on me, but he ended up loving me in the end. He would give me grief. He would say, you said this guy could be back in 2 weeks. And he's not back until 4. You're wrong. And I said, you call everyone coach. And I would say to him, coach, I can always be right if you want me to. I'll tell you that ankle's going to be 6 weeks. And then I'll look like a good doctor to you because I got him back in 4. You want me to do that, or you want the truth? He goes, I want the truth. Okay. Well, if you're asking me to pin it down to 1 week or the exact timeline, I'm not clairvoyant. I saw him on Sunday. I see him on Monday. I'm projecting out 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. If you want to make me look myself look good, I'll say it's 6 weeks, but we're really good at rehab and we're going to get him back in 3 or 4. All right. Do you want that? No. So what I ended up telling him was saying, I will give you 2 numbers. I will go give you a number where if things break our way, he can be back. And I'll give you a 50-50 number, and I'll give you a 90% number. He basically for sure will be back in this amount of time. Okay. That's all Schefter did. Okay. 6 weeks. Yes. He's not going to be 100% till at least 6 weeks. But at 2 weeks, maybe he could play, right? That's all. That's all Schefter did. I got your back, Adam. You didn't do it. You know this. I mean, you're always accurate.
Yeah.
I got your back. People misinterpret.
It's the information game.
You know, I would argue, even though I just said Bryce Young's high ankle sprain, I don't see it being IR. I guarantee you he's still going to notice it at 4 weeks or 6 weeks. But he's going to be ready to play before then. So if you want to go revisionist and said his mild ankle sprain will be lingering for 6-8 weeks, yes, but that doesn't mean he's out for 6-8 weeks. Right? There's nuances. We talked about it yesterday. Do you really think the Green Bay Packers beat Arizona after sitting 5 hours on an airplane?
They weren't sitting for 5 hours. That was the big thing we got out of. Yeah.
The airplane sat for 5. They got off the plane.
Yes. Yeah. So like you said, there's different things. Even though the statement's there's other,
there's nuances to every statement. So
exactly.
Adam doesn't need my help or protection. He's done it forever. He's the GOAT with it. But I got your back, Adam, on this. Your tweets were not wrong. It's just the interpretation. It's the and yes, I still stand behind the Vikings are hiding behind health.
Doc, just to make sure everybody, these updates that we're doing, updates on Sunday throughout the week, go to SICScore.com. They're all up, including all the big players that are getting their 21 days activated. One that I saw, Doc, big linebacker for the Cowboys, DeMarvion Overshown. He had a really, really significant knee injury, Doc. You saw that. It was ACL plus, right? Tell me your thoughts if he can return and what you're going to see if he comes back.
Well, I think 80% of DeMarvion Overshown is better than most linebackers. So his practice window being open means they expect to activate him by 21 days. If he's not activated in 21 days, he's done for the season. So he will be activated. Not this week, probably. In 2 weeks, certainly by 3 weeks. And the question is, what version are we going to get? 80% DeMarvion Overshown, 90% DeMarvion Overshown, or 60% DeMarvion Overshown? Remains to be seen.
Yeah. One question I had just popped up on the chat, Doc. Jayden Reed, remember he had the foot injury. He played through it, suffered the collarbone. Details on that. When would you expect him to come back? Within this year, or is it the playoffs, or what was the exact timeline for a collarbone? He had surgeries on both, remember?
Well, it's surgery on the foot because he's going to be out 6-8 weeks. So we might as well. Let's try and put that behind us, right? And that's what we were saying when we were fading Jayden Reed at the beginning of the season. I would expect he turns 6 to 8 weeks from his collarbone fracture. The foot actually might be a little bit longer. So I think he's hurt in week 2.
I want to say week 2. Yeah.
I don't remember. So we're 6 weeks makes week 8.
Yeah. So week 2. Correct. Yeah.
8 to 10. Week 8 to 10 is sort of his window to return. And obviously, look, I think his 21-day window opens up maybe next week.
Just a couple couple players to talk about. These are 2 tight ends, Doc. Darren Waller, pec strain, week to week. That's kind of similar to what we saw with Mike Gesicki, because you said on the podcast yesterday, it doesn't matter if they're both purely receiving tight ends. They do need to block, right? So that's why
everyone needs to block.
Yeah.
Okay. So and that's how you break the long runs by even wide receivers, tight. Everyone blocks somebody on a play. Now, The other one we need to cover is Jayden Daniels, hamstring. Good news, not his left knee. Bad news, hamstring. Marcus Mariota's got this next game for sure
On Monday Night Football against KC. Yeah,
KC. There's no such thing as a 1 week hamstring strain. Look at Lamar. Lamar's coming off the bye, and we finally expect Lamar to be there this week.
Chicago
against Chicago. He hurt it against Kansas City in week 4.
No IR for him. And you're not expecting IR for Daniels, just like
no, I'm not expecting IR for Daniels, but I don't see Washington rushing him back and turning a 2-week hamstring strain into a 6-week hamstring strain, right? I mean, I don't see him rushing back. We don't have the MRI results report yet of mild, moderate, severe. I think that'll come today probably. And then we'll know a little more. But he is missing time. The hope is he can avoid IR.
Next one, David Njoku. He missed the game this week due to a knee injury. They upgraded him to day-to-day now, but they do have a bye week 9. Is this a chance they just rest him again week 8, and then or they sit him week 8, let him do the bye? He's a trade candidate as well, or is he able to play through now that they upgraded his status a bit?
So many things go into return to play decisions.
Right.
Trade deadline thoughts. You can't trade an unhealthy player. Thoughts about matchups, backups, schemes. Who do we need this week? Is it worth rolling the dice on a guy who's 90% healthy, but a 5% chance of aggravation where he misses a month? Or is it not worth rolling the dice on a guy in that situation? So a lot goes into the decision of return to play, etc. And we'll see. Too early to tell here on David Njoku.
One defensive injury I wanted to go through right before we leave, Doc. Samson Ebukam. I know you saw. I don't know if we went through his injury yesterday. He's the first year off his ACL last year. He's had 2 sacks this year. He's getting a second opinion. They're saying he's expected to miss multiple weeks with MCL. Do you remember the video? Does that show anything that we saw yesterday?
Well, going side to side and getting around the edge, yes, you need an MCL. So right. Multiple weeks would be good. At this point, multiple weeks for him, yes, that's a blow. The hope is he can avoid IR. No surgery. He will be back this season for sure. And the question is it the degree? Mild, moderate, severe. Severe, he's going on IR. Mm-hmm. Moderate, he might go on IR. Mild, he's not going on IR. Don't know the degree of the MCL sprain yet.
You always say, I know it's not like this significant, but like remember DeAndre Hopkins a couple years ago, you always said like an isolated MCL surgery is very rare. That's not usually the case.
Very rare. No surgery here. Yes.
One question. Speaking of 1 week hamstrings, is what I said. I told you this is the comment. This is your line is going across now. Egbuka tonight. This is one that it seems like in the back end they're really trying to push him through. Like any other week, looking at our 6 score stuff, I would say no way he plays. Especially, but their wide receiver room's a little banged up. Tell me why they're kind of pushing him through this soft tissue injury, if at all.
Well, I don't know the severity of it. I would assume it's mild, but even if it is mild, Tampa's got to consider what happens if it gets worse. You can aggravate it.
Right.
Is it worth playing him this week and making it worse and in the big picture missing more time? I remember Tampa a couple years ago played Chris Godwin when we thought it was earlier than he was healthy, and he hurt something else in that game. I remember Tampa a couple years back, Mike Evans playing through a hamstring and getting 1 catch for 2 yards, but it was a touchdown.
Yes,
and that was his one.
Fade, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I have more optimism in Mike Evans being productive this week. It's about time than Egbuka. Egbuka, I don't think he's going to play, but if he does, I mean, he's not running 60 routes and he's not doing double moves. Is he out there for distraction and decoy, that's more likely. Can he make a catch or two? Sure, he's talented. You can't expect normal numbers if he's out there. But talking props again, they're not going to post a normal number if he's out.
Egbuka. Yeah,
right?
yeah. If anything, it might be lower. Yeah, and you get worried about going under just because he has an injury, right? Yeah.
If Ebuka's out there and they're posting a normal number, take the under. But I would be shocked if books post a normal number on him.
All right, Doc Locks. Last thing I just want to promote. Tomorrow we're gonna have a scheduled lightning pod. So we're scheduling the weather over there for your big NBA preview. We're gonna go through some of the big name players and their injuries. Season starts tomorrow as well. We'll get all the medical takes on Jason Tatum and so forth. Okay.
Does 12:30 work for everybody? Lunchtime. I mean, hopefully my clinic stays on time. We'll do 12:30, and it'll still be for the opening tip of any of the games. Yeah, and yes, this is why we're not called Pro Football Doc or Pro Football Central. It's Sports Injury Central, NBA, which actually turns out to be more actionable than NFL based on, only 5 starters versus 22. And we'll cover basketball as well. All right, good job, and good job on the circus stuff this week.
Yes, exactly.
We won't brag on the number. We don't want to jinx ourselves. All right.
But yeah, go to SIC Picks and go to Sixer.com for all the latest picks and insights. Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, guys.